Stephanie, and thank you so much to everyone in joining this webinar. My name is Armando Mendoza. As Stephanie mentioned, I am a data dissemination specialist.
Armando, we can't hear you. You are muted. Are you?
Sorry, I guess I pressed twice. Sorry. So again, sorry. Welcome everyone. I'm gonna just briefly describe the data dissemination and training branch, which was implemented right after the decennial census in 2010, because the Census Bureau recognized the need for having an evergreen program to teach people how to access the census data. When I go into the live demo, I'm going to show you where the Census Academy is, where we have a number of data gems. These are short videos that teach you how to access a specific data. These are very easy to use, 3 to 5 minutes. We also have some courses, and we have a number of webinars on specific topics. So the objectives today is for you to have an increased awareness of the types of data products available through the Census Bureau website, to have be better equipped to utilize some of the free online tools available at census.gov and other resources and data sets to assist you in navigating the data available through census.gov. And then at the end, I'm going to conduct a live demo and show some of the most prominent, some of the most popular data tools to mine for data. So even if you're a frequent data user, you probably learned something today. So the Census Bureau is the largest federal government statistical agency. We conduct about 130 surveys. The most prominent, obviously, is the decennial census, which happens every 10 years. We do the American Community Survey, which I'm going to describe in a little while. And then we do an economic census. And it's uncanny because we just began to do the economic census for 2022. The economic census is conducted every 5 years, and years that end in 2 and in 7. So it is for the fiscal year, it's for the calendar year of January 1st to December 31st of 2022. 2023 will be the actual data collection from about 4 million businesses in the US. We do some other surveys. These are, again, some of the most prominent: American Community Survey, which I'll describe a little later. We do the American Housing Survey, which happens every 2 years. And you probably hear in the news every day, the inflation is such percent. We actually do the data collection through a survey that is called the Consumer Expenditure Survey that provides the CPI, or the Consumer Price Index, that tells us the inflation percentage. We also do the Current Population Survey, and that's another important survey sponsored by the US Labor Statistics, that provides the unemployment rate at the national level. Typically, those numbers are released by the BLS, or Bureau of Labor Statistics, the first Friday of every month. We do a crime survey for the Department of Justice. We do a national health interview survey. And again, these are most of the most prominent surveys out of the 130 that I mentioned. You may or may not know, but the Census Bureau, the decennial census, is a constitutional mandate. It's right there on the Constitution, on Article 1, Section 2. And the Census Bureau has been conducting censuses since 1790. The primary purpose of doing the census is to apportion the House of Representatives. There are 435 seats today in the House of Representatives, and those 435 seats get reapportioned or get divided based on how the population is shifted during the past 10 years. This graph shows you what happened in 2020. The states in purple, which I am based in California, by the way, are states that lost 1 seat. So California, Illinois, Ohio, Philadelphia, New York, Michigan, and West Virginia are states that lost a seat. The states in gray, including Alaska, remain the same. And the states in green, they either won 1 or 2 seats. In this case, Texas won 2 seats. Again, a significant number of political power the state of Texas has been gaining, because in 2010 they gave 4 seats. So again, it has incredible political implications because of the apportionment, and it also has significant economic implications because based on the census count and the American Community Survey, which work hand in hand, over $675 billion of federal funds get distributed to the states. So for the Census Bureau, it is, well, first, it's a constitutional mandate, but the mandate says that we must count everyone that live in the United States on years that end in 0. This is the population numerical changes for the state of Alaska. So 710,231 to 733,391 in 2020. This shows a numeric change for Fairbanks, North Star Borough, and the city of Fairbanks. Again, these are the numerical changes. And the next slide shows you the actual percentage change. So you can see and apologize for the misspelling on the Fairbanks, North Star Borough. You can see that the borough lost about 2% of the population. Alaska gained 3.3% between 2010 and 2020, and Fairbanks, the city of Fairbanks, gained 3.2% of the population. So here's a really basic course on how the geography works for the Census Bureau. The smallest geographical statistical area is a census block, which is on the right. I'm gonna go backwards against the arrows. So the smallest statistical area is a census block, which is a city block. That block nests into a block group, which is a number of blocks. Block groups nests into a census tract nests into a county into a state, and the state into the United States. And here's a different way to look at it. The central axis tells you the nesting relationship. Again, census block is the smallest geographical level. It is important to remember that the only data available at the block level is from the decennial census, not the American Community Survey. The American Community Survey begins at the block group, and then census tracts are typical neighborhoods. They range in population between 1,200 and 8,000, with an optimum population of about 4,000. And he has about 480 to 32 housing units. Every 10 years, census blocks, census tracts get redefined because they're based in population. As I mentioned, they're typically between 1,200 and 8,000. These are all of the census tracts within Fairbanks, North Star Borough. And you can see that tract 11 actually split between 1401 and 1402. That's typical, the nomenclature that we use. 15 as well, so went to 15 to 1501 and 1502, and 19 went from 19 to 1901, and 1902 and 2010. I'm still waiting for response from our geography department, because notice 11 and 18, they're not split, they just changed the number. And it's a little odd for me because I never seen a 4-digit number for a census tract. So I'll get back to you. I'm gonna send a copy of the presentation. And if I get that information from my geography department, I'll be able to tell you a little bit more about that. So this is the population numerical change and the percentage change for all of the tracts that I mentioned. So you can see that what used to be 11 and is now 9,800 experienced the largest percentage change at almost 17%, as well as census tract 5 at 3.9 and census tract number 9 at 4.5. The rest of the tracts actually lost population between 2010 and 2020. This is the highlight the boundaries for Fairbanks, North Star Borough. what it looked like in 2010 and what it looks like today. And you can see the changes. I'll go back here. You can see, and the census tracts vary in geography because, again, they're based in population. So there are very large geographic areas where the population is small or sparse throughout the census tract. But you can see, and the darker the color, the larger the population. So you can see the bluest one in this 2010 graph compared to 2020, and also see the growth on the bottom one. So it sounds like that could be the reason. Didn't have a chance to look at it, but that may be the reason why those 9,800 and 9,801 may be. So I'll describe the American Community Survey because not a lot of people know. It is the rich source of socioeconomic demographics. And this is some quick overview, a quick profile of Fairbanks North Star Borough in Alaska. You can see on the left, on the top, you see that the population, it tells you what the source is. So it says that at 2020, there's 95,655. It is from the decennial census, which is the official count. And then you have employment, you have business and economy, income and poverty. Those numbers are coming from the American Community Survey, which I'll describe in a minute. So the American Community Survey was implemented in 2005, but before that, between 1940 and 2000, every decennial census, we had two forms. We had a short form that collected basic information of the household, so age, sex, race, Hispanic origin, and then we had a long form that collected the rich socioeconomic demographic information like educational attainment, poverty status, veteran status. The long form in 2000 went to a sample of the population. It didn't go to every household. It went to 1 in 6 households in 2000 received the long form, which provided this rich socioeconomic information. Now it was replaced in 2005 by the American Community Survey. So in 2010 and 2020, we only have the short form. And what that means is that you can only find the basic information from the decennial census. If you notice on this graph, the only data from the decennial census is actually the population, which is population and people toward the bottom left of the screen. The other one's employment. It tells you there's the American Community Survey. The business and economy is from the 2020 Economic Survey business patterns and so forth. The American Community Survey is the largest of the 130 surveys that we conduct. It's 3.5 million addresses per year, and they get divided on cohorts of approximately 295,000 addresses monthly. So as I speak, there's 295,000 households that are chosen randomly throughout the country collecting the data for the American Community Survey. It produces detailed population and housing estimates every year. So this is one of the advantages of the American Community Survey as opposed to the long form in 2000, because in 2000, while the decade was young, the data was good. But as the decade began to get older, the data was not as useful, not as relevant. So now the American Community Survey release data annually. If you look toward the bottom of the page on the blue side, you can see that 1 year estimates are for populations of 65,000 or more. The 1 year supplemental estimates are for populations of 20,000 or more. And the 5 year estimates are for all levels of geographies. I described the census block groups, and the census tracts. For those small geographic areas, we need a wider window of data collection in order to produce reliable statistics. So this is similar to what we collected on the long form. So it's divided in 4 buckets, if you will. So the demographic characteristics are the same questions that we asked during the decennial census in 2010 and 2020. So age, sex, race, and Hispanic origin. With regards to social characteristics, we can look at education. So for example, we can determine the percentage of people that have a high school diploma or higher degrees, marital status, veteran status, disability, place of birth. You may have heard that the citizenship question was trying to be reintroduced in the decennial census in 2020, and it went all the way up to the Supreme Court, and it was not included. However, it is included on the American Community Survey, but it's also important to understand that it has nothing to do with legal status. The citizenship question is it's a two-part question. And the question is, were you born in the US, yes or no? If you say yes, you're part of the native-born population. If you said no, you're part of the foreign-born population. Part B of that, for the foreign-born population, we ask, have you become a naturalized US citizen, yes or no? Again, nothing to do with legal status. And then we have computer and internet use. On housing characteristics, again, the text in red are questions that we also ask on the 2020 census and the 2010 census. So housing value, taxes and insurance, mortgage, monthly rent. With regards to the economic characteristics, all the way to the right, we can look at income, the sources of income, benefits, employment status, occupations, commuting to work. So I understand that it's a pretty extensive survey, and it takes an average of 40 minutes to complete. And as I mentioned, not a lot of people know about it. It is a mandatory survey because it goes hand in hand with the decennial census, and people get either confused or they don't trust that this is a legitimate survey, and they either call their congressional office inquiring whether this is a legitimate Census Bureau data collection effort, or they call the Census Bureau, and sometimes they call and they're actually a little bit annoyed that we ask so many questions. However, it is critical that we get that information from the household that was randomly selected, because the household represents another 1,000 housing units in the area. So the better information that we have, the better data we're going to be able to publish.
Excuse me, Armando.
Yes.
There's a question in the chat. Is
Yes.
there data on how many AmeriCom surveys were returned from Alaska?
I'll say that. So how many
It says AmeriCom surveys. I'm assuming American Community Surveys were returned from Alaska.
Oh, I see. How many? What was the sample size?
That's not in there. It just says, is there data on how many American Community Surveys were returned from Alaska?
Yeah, so I think the question is, because it's a sample, I think the question is how many, first, what the sample size, it could have been, I'm just going to throw a number, 100,000 questionnaires that went into Alaska, either on the 1-year estimates or the 5-year estimates. And then I think the question is, what is the response rate? In other words, how many people return the questionnaire to us? Is that what the question is? The person on the type.
Melissa, does that answer your question?
Yeah, and I'm sorry, I'm not looking at that. I'm concentrated on the presentation, so I'm not looking at.
That's okay. That's what I'm here for.
No, thank you.
I'm not seeing any responses yet. I will let you know if I see one.
Okay, great. Thank you. I think that's what she meant, but if it's not, then let's clarify that for you. And the answer is yes. As I said, I'm going to send you a copy of the presentation, and then I'm going to send you a link because I have to dig through it, and we have a tendency to change things all the time. And in light of the time constraints, I don't want to be fumbling to the website, but I will send a link that'll tell you if this is the question that you are asking, the sample size and the percentage, the return rate. Okay, so moving on, I'm going to go live and show you a couple of the tools that you can actually access the data that I show you. Let me see if I can do this. So now you should be able to see the Census Bureau webpage.
Yes, it is visible.
Okay. So if you're not, we have a beautiful, in my opinion, we have a beautiful, well-designed website with a number of characteristics on the economy, people, places in America.
Armando, she says, thank you. Yes, the response rate from Alaska.
Great. So I will include the link when I send the PowerPoint presentation. So it is a well-designed website. However, if you're not a frequent data user, it's not very intuitive to say, I want to know the percentage of people that have a high school diploma in Fairbanks, North Star. Not very intuitive. However, it has some interesting information here. As I mentioned, the economic census just got underway. If you need help with a survey or want to verify whether the survey is legitimate, there's a link here. Looking down to the bottom, there's some economic indicators here. So this is a number of economic indicators, most of them at the national or state level. Nonetheless, it's a very rich information with regards to economic data. Then we have the population clock. This is a very useful tool because we do a population estimates after each decennial census to figure out how the population is growing. So when you click in here, there's a couple of things, so changes of components. So we take into account the latest census numbers as a base, and then we take into account the birth rate, death rate, and international migrant, and then the net gain per person. So in this case, there's one birth every 9 seconds in the US, there's one death every 10 seconds, there's one international migrant net every 29 seconds that yields one person every 22 seconds. To the right, you have the most populous countries in the world, and you can see how fast the world is changing. We do projections. We did a projection to 2060, and unfortunately that number is not here yet, but I saw some outstanding numbers. If you're kind of into data, you see India is following very closely China. It is projected that India is going to surpass China in 2060 by 300 million people. So that's almost the size of the population of the US, if you can even think about that. If you continue to scroll down, you see the region's growth, you see the distribution in the age and sex from males and females. You can use the slider to see how it changed between the years. If you continue to scroll down, you can see the most populous states, counties, and cities. California being the state that I'm from, it is almost at 40 million people. Again, the largest county is, again, LA, almost 10 million people. And then the largest city is New York City with a little bit over 8 million people. Same thing with the density. So you have the states, the counties, and the cities. That is the US and world population clock. I'm gonna go back to the landing page. The easiest way to navigate our website is whenever you click and you go to another link and you wanna return to the landing page at the Census Bureau, all you gotta do is click on the logo and you'll be right back in here. I'm gonna show you a tool that is, it's not new, but it wasn't available in 2010. We actually have implemented quite a few tools, as I mentioned earlier, that make it easier to find data. And it lives here, today it lives here. Again, we have a tendency to change things, but today it's called the Quick Facts. And it's called Quick Facts because it's very fast. You don't need to understand all the lingo. You simply click on that link and it's gonna bring you here. The US is the default. And in this tool, you can compare up to 6 geographies side by side, being a state, county, city, or town. So I'm gonna do this here and use this search box and type Fairbanks. So Fairbanks, North Star Borough. And you can see that now the data is displayed side by side with the United States. I'm going to deselect the United States and focus on Alaska in Fairbanks, North Star Borough. So this is a table view. There's a number of data sources from here. We have data from the Population Estimates Program. We have age and sex from the American Community Survey. We have data on race and Hispanic origin, the population characteristics of veterans and the foreign-born persons as a percent, the housing data, families and living arrangements, computer internet use, high school graduate or higher, some health data, some economic data, income and poverty, and then some business data. It is important to remember that this tool is not, you don't get all the data that is available. It's just a quick fact, if you will. It is also important to remember that this is for populations with a threshold of 5,000 or more. Okay? So as I mentioned, you can compare up to 6 geographies side by side. You can see there's a little circle right here with one because we only selected one geography, but you can also map this information. So I'm gonna click on map here. And it's gonna render a map with the city, with the Fairbanks North Star Borough geography. You can zoom in and out. And then the next thing you can do is you can select a fact. So for example, we can look at all the ones on the previous page on the previous page are available. So for example, we can look at the percentage of foreign-born population. And this is from the latest 5-year estimates, 2017 to 2021. The next vintage, I remember I mentioned that we release data every year. The next vintage, what would be 2018 to 2022, will be released in December of this year. So you can look at any of these facts, and I'm gonna click on the foreign-born persons percent. And when you do that and you click on the geography, is gonna tell you that in Fairbanks, North Star Borough, the foreign-born population is 5.1%. Let me see. Okay. You select another fact because I want to show you that from here, you can actually add, so by person 65 years and over, and hopefully, so typically you can select, so when you click to the adjacent boroughs or counties, you can see that in Yukon, I don't know how to pronounce the name, but there is the largest percentage of foreign-born population. And here you have the ability to add this, and this little circle is going to refresh, and now you see that we have 2 geographic selections selected. And here's the map. And let me see here. And yeah, it's just zooming out too much because they're so large, but you kind of get the idea. Let me see if it selects this one. Yeah, so the Nali Borough, the foreign-born population is 12.8%. And again, you can select any of the facts from this drop-down menu. So that's the map view, but you can also look this data on a chart. When you click on the chart and you select any of the geographics available, and it's going to tell you, again, the fact that you have selected here. And in this case, I think it includes all the boroughs in Alaska. Or you can look at the dashboard, which is going to have the table view, the map view, and the chart, and one page. And then you have the ability to share this. When you click on this more, you can actually print this data. You can email the link to somebody, so they don't have to go through all the steps. You copy the link, you send it on an email, and the person will be able to get here without making all the selections. Or you can actually embed this information or this web page on your own page. And here is the the code to do that. Okay. Let me pause for a second and see if you have any other questions in the chat or anybody wants to raise their hand.
I don't see anything in the chat and I don't see any raised hands.
Okay, so let me move on. I'm going to show you what I believe is a great resource, relatively new tool. It is directly from the American Community Survey landing page. It's called the narrative profile, and the easiest way to get to it is when you're here on the URL at the landing page of the census.gov, you type / and ACS for the acronym of the American Community Survey, and you click enter. And this is a landing page for the American Community Survey. It has the technical documentation. Buried in here is somewhere where we have the response rates and the sample size for Alaska. Again, I'll dig through it and I'll send it on a link. What I want to show you is the data that is available here. So when you click on data and then data tables, it's going to describe here a couple of tables. The data profiles are broad socioeconomic and housing and demographic information. If you remember the little 4 buckets that I mentioned earlier, these are the data profiles. So DPO2 is the social, DPO3 is the economic, DPO4 is the demographic, and then DPO5 is demographic and housing characteristics. So they're here. But what I want to show you this tool that I think is very useful, particularly, I don't know if there's anybody in the audience that writes grant proposals. I think this tool is really, really helpful because it's easy to use and it describes the statistics in a non-technical form. There's a question in there, so let me pause and see if you can read it, Stephanie.
Yes, I can.
Okay. There are 2 questions. Okay, let me see. Okay, so there's a grant writer and there's somebody with a smiley that they're okay. Well, this is you're gonna like this tool. Again, if you haven't seen it, you will see that it's very useful. Again, I'm gonna click on the narrative profiles. It describes what the report is, which describes the statistic as a non-technical form, so it's not a statistical terms. It has already some built-in graphics in it, and the benefit of it that lately we actually have the ability to get down to census tract level. So a neighborhood, if you remember earlier when I described the geography, so now we can look at a census tract or a nation, a state, county. A place is a city or an incorporated city. And then census tract, you already know, zip code tabulation area, metro and micropolitan statistical areas, Alaska Native, Hawaiian homeland, and American Indian areas. In this case, I'm really curious about the 9,800 census tract, and it requires for you to know the number. And so we begin our selection by clicking on the bubble and then selecting, of course, the state, so Alaska, and then also selecting the county, in this case, the borough, right? So I'm gonna go to Fairbanks, North Star Borough in Alaska. And now we choose the census tract is 9,800. So here are the 2 that I mentioned earlier. So I'm gonna select 9,800, and then you have already made all your geographic selections, and then you click on Get Narrative Profile, and it's gonna produce this report that I think is very useful to support grant proposals, because sometimes census tracts or neighborhoods change dramatically from one census tract to the next. As I mentioned earlier on the foreign-born population, there was about 13% difference between Fairbanks, North Star Borough, and the next one. So here it is. Here is, and this is, by the way, from the latest 5-year estimates. So we have household and families compositions. So married couple household, cohabitating couple household, male householder, no partner present, and the female householder, no spouse present, marital status, grandparents and grandchildren. Here's the nativity in the foreign-born population. Remember, I mentioned that it was a two-part question. So in this particular census tract, there's 94.6% of the people living here. There are U.S. natives, 51.1% were living in the state where they were born, and then 5.4% in this tract were foreign born, and 70.8% have become naturalized U.S. citizens. And if you continue to scroll down, you can see the regions of birth for the foreign-born population. Asia being the largest, it's almost 35%. And you can look at this data on this chart or in a table format by clicking on this view here. You continue to scroll down, you see additional characteristics with regards to language, the language spoken at home. Geographic mobility tells us the percentage of people that live in the same household for the past year. So 65.2% live in the same households a year ago. And then about 5% different household, but same county, different state, and from abroad. Again, you can look at this data on a table format. Continue to scroll down, you can see, I mentioned earlier, educational attainment. So this is for the population 25 years and over. The less than high school diploma is what is considered the high school dropout rate, because it is for the universe of people that are 25 years and over that did not complete high school or GED and are not currently enrolled. And then you have a high school diploma, the percentage of people that went to college but did not attain a degree, associate's degree, bachelor's degree, and graduate professional degree. You continue to scroll down, you have disability status, employment status, industries, occupations. Here's the commuting to work. So, what sort of mode of transportation people use? Did they use a car, truck, van, and drove alone? Did they carpool? Did they use public transportation? They walk to work, other means, or people that work from home. It'll be interesting because obviously the COVID-19 pandemic had a huge impact on people being stuck at home. So the percentage of people that went back to work at home, I would assume that it's significantly high. It's going to show higher as we continue to release this data. And then some of them are going to go back to work in an office, but I understand some offices are given the opportunity now that they realize that working from home, they can be just as efficient and effective than going to an office, and businesses can maybe save money instead of, leasing businesses. But this is just a outside comment from me. It's just interesting. I'm going to keep an eye on to see what the number is going to show as years come, new vintages come. And then here's the income. So the median household income is $63,082. And then some other incomes. So the median income in the distribution between males and females. The sources of income, so earnings, Social Security, retirement income, and so forth. Poverty and participation in government programs. Health insurance coverage, we began collecting health insurance coverage in 2008, so we have that information now. The age distribution, and then here Hispanic origin and race, housing inventories, occupied housing units, financial characteristics, and then computer and interview. So for example, if you are writer, and I'm not a grant writer, but if you want to show the contrast, let's say you're looking for a service, maybe you want to build a senior center in a specific census tract, you can show the population that is 65 and above, and you can compare and contrast to what is around, making a case for your proposal. And in this case, you can either print this report and put it as an appendix to your grant proposal. You can use the data that is relevant for your use in the particular project that you're working with. So I'm going to go back here to the top. And let's see. Again, when you click on the census logo, it's going to bring you here. We have a number of data tools and maps. I mentioned that the quick facts lives here, where I mentioned earlier, is right in here. So need data quickly is that quick facts. But again, we have a tendency to change things around. So if, as time goes on and you cannot find this here, or it's not here anymore, all of the data tools are here in this landing page. And again, we have implemented a number of data tools. I don't know if you attended the previous in the series, which was focused on the Census Business Builder. This is a tool that allows you to gauge the opportunity for you to expand either branch or a brand new business. And again, I covered that, I think on February 1st. And then here are all the other data tools that we have. I'm gonna again go back to the landing page, and I'm gonna go to the Census Academy, which I mentioned earlier, because there's some great resources here. We have the data gems that I mentioned earlier, which are right here. They're short videos on a specific topic. So here are my colleagues, how to access map and compare detailed veteran status. Again, these are short videos that, they're 3 to 5 minutes in length. We have a number of webinars here as well. So we have a calendar of upcoming webinars on specific topics. So here is one coming up on the 14th, the disproportionate impact of COVID-19 pandemic on women in the workforce, census tools for, here's one for you. This is specifically for grant writing. So census tools for the grant writing trade. It'll be a little bit more in detail than what I cover. So again, this is a good page to look at either upcoming webinars, or we also have recorded webinars and we have webinar series. So recorded webinars are typically, again, on a specific topic. So here's one that happened in January 31st, the 2020 census race and ethnicity data from a table called the DHCA proof of concept. And then we have some courses that you can attend. These are a little bit more lengthy on a specific topic. And then here's a number of resources here. And I forgot to mention, we have about 50 individuals like myself that are dispersed throughout the country that offer webinars like this. We are now the COVID-19 is in the rear mirror. Hopefully there's no more, new viruses that come out, but we are beginning to get out in person to do this. And I believe that this type of training is more effective and efficient in person, because we've been doing webinars for 3 years, and I myself sometimes find myself multitasking. You don't pay attention, you don't retain as much from the training. So I believe that in-person training are more efficient and effective. I cover Alaska, the state of Hawaii, Orange County, where I live, and San Diego County. But if there's somebody in the audience that are outside of this geographic area that I cover, you can request the data training here, and it'll go and it's going to connect you with the person, whatever it is, in Texas or Illinois, whatever it may be. In the copy of the presentation that I'm going to send you is going to have my contact information, my direct line, and an email address. It is quite a trip to go to Alaska, and there's weather issues and all of that. We typically do attend the AFN every year, but again, as we begin to get out, what I do is actually, if I'm going to travel to Alaska, then what I try to do is do several things, several in-person presentations on specific topic to make sure that we're using taxpayer dollars efficiently. Okay, so that's the Census Academy. Then I'm going to show you the most robust, the most powerful tool, if you will. It's called datacensus.gov. It replaced the American Fact Finder. So if you've accessed data before from that tool got decommissioned a couple of years ago, and it was replaced by the tool that I'm going to show you. And the easiest way to get to it is just type the URL. So data.census.gov, and it's going to bring you to the landing page. It's a little cleaner. It's cluttered. We're trying to make the data more easy accessible. And there's a couple of ways that you can find data. You can find data without knowing any lingo from the US. You simply type Fairbanks, North Star Bureau. You don't need to know anything, and it's going to bring you to this landing page with a number of data sources. So here it gives you, right off the bat, it gives you the total population. It tells you the source, which is the official count from the 2020 census. And then all of these are tables to data that are related specifically to the Bureau. And if you click in here, you can see the profile. Yeah, so this is the screenshot that I show you in the presentation. So again, it's the total population, employment, income and poverty, and so forth. But I'm going to go back to the tables. And for example, this is the default. So this is the first results from the 2020 census. It's called a redistricting file. That's how the congressional districts get redrawn, because again, they change every 10 years. And right now, this is the first iteration of the data that we have. So for example, more granular data is going to come out. Right now, we only have Asian alone, but we're going to have more granular data on data products that are coming out this year. So this is from the decennial census. You can download this to an Excel file, a CSV file, or a zip file. You can transpose the columns and the rows by clicking here. So if you want to look at the data in a different way, you can do that. You can also map this data. When you click on map, again, it's going to give us the boundaries of the Bureau. And then you can select the variables here. So for example, right now, I think the default is a total population, but we can look at, let's see if I can find a percentage instead of a numerical value. Well, you kind of get the idea. You select a specific characteristics of population or the people that mark 2 or more races, and you click that, and then you click in the boundary, and it tells you the number. You can also share this information by clicking here. You copy this link, similar to the quick facts that I mentioned. You copy the link, you send it to a recipient, and they'll be able to come here without making all the selections. That is from the decennial census. And then here is the population estimates program that I mentioned earlier. Here are, and then from here on is data from the American Community Survey. We always gonna tell you the source. Since we release this data every year, you can go back in time. You're always gonna have the latest data as the default. So in this case is the 5-year estimates 2017 to 2021. But when you click on this little plus sign, because the Bureau meets the threshold of 65,000 or more, you're gonna find data from the 1-year estimates and from the 5-year estimates. The differences between the two, the 1-year estimates are more recent, but less accurate. The 5-year estimates are less recent because it covers 60 months of data collection, but more accurate. And that's just basic statistics. The larger the sample, the smaller the margin of error. We also want to encourage you to compare apples to apples. So if you're gonna compare, you compare 1-year estimates to 1-year estimates. If you're going to compare 5-year estimates, we recommend that you don't compare overlapping periods. You want to compare two separate periods. So for example, the first one to 2005 to 2009. The first iteration that you want to compare to is 2010 and going forward. You don't want to compare 2006 because it's going to contain at least 1 year of data. So you want to do non-overlapping periods. Okay. And let's see. So I'm going to select, in this case, the 1-year estimates. We are on the map view, but if you want to look at a table, you simply click on the tables, and it's going to bring you here where you have the ability to, again, share, print, map, Excel, CSV, zip file. You also have the ability to not display or display the margin of error by clicking here. Same thing about transposing the rows and the columns. And then you can see that there is additional, more granular data than what I show you on the other tools. This is the reason why I mentioned that this is the more robust, the most powerful tool that we have to mine for data. So I'll go back here. And I'm gonna leave the last 5 minutes to get any feedback for you. Was this useful? Is this helpful? What do you think? Or you have any other questions that I might be able to answer you?
I don't see anything in the chat yet or any hands raised.
Okay, I'll just hang out a minute or so in case something comes up. Sure. But if you know, if after we finish this webinar, if you forgot how to, because it's a fairly packed presentation, lots of tools, lots of movements, lots of web page. If you forget the step, send me an email. I'll be happy to send you the instructions on how to get there. Or excuse me, if your organization wants to host a webinar specific for your own needs, again, send me an email and I'll be happy to schedule that for you. So let me see what this question is.
Yeah, there's a question in the chat.
Yes. Yes, so let me show you how you can do that very easily. I'm gonna go back here. In this case, when I click on the census logo, it's not gonna go back to the landing page. It's gonna go to the landing page of datacensus.gov. Excuse me. I show you the simple search. In this case, we're gonna do an advanced search. So advanced search, you select the geography first. In this case, it will be a county in Alaska. And then here you have the ability to select all the counties. Excuse me. All the boroughs within Alaska, or select individual ones to compare. But again, you have the ability to select all the counties. And then you see that we have a filter here, all counties. And then you can look at topics. So for example, you want to look at income and poverty. You select the poverty. You click on that and you can see that I have two filters now. You have your geographic selection and your characteristic that you want to search for, and then you click search. And again, it's going to bring you to this page that is going to provide to you the poverty status for the past 12 months for all the counties. So you can see here, Anchorage is the first one, but you can continue to scroll to the right. You can see that same process. You can Excel this file, you can CSV, you can share this information. You can toggle between the data table. So the first one shows the poverty status in the past 12 months. This one is for families. This is for characteristics of the people and the poverty levels. So you kind of get the idea. So lots and lots of data here. Similar to the other thing, here you can go back in time. In this case, there's maybe a borough or a county that doesn't meet the 65,000 population or more. This is the only reason why you see the 5-year estimates only. Okay.
Okay, I don't see any more questions in the chat. Does anybody have additional questions? All right, seeing none. Thank you, Armando. That was a great session, very informational. This webinar was recorded and can be found on the FNSB Community Research Corp quarterly website soon. Our next session will be on Wednesday, February 15th, and we look forward to seeing you then.
Thank you very much.